Every year, Americans spend over $700 million on pho, and most of it tastes nothing like the real thing. That's not an accident. What gets served in most Western restaurants is a shortcut version. Pre-made broth, wrong spices, wrong bones, wrong technique. The real recipe has been simmering in Vietnamese home kitchens for over a century, and nobody told you about it. Pho isn't just soup. It's a morning ritual. It's what locals eat at 6 a.m., standing over a street cart in a dark alley, steam rising off a bowl so clear you can see the noodles at the bottom. Today, we're making that bowl. And the secret starts with something most recipes tell you to skip. Hit subscribe. Every week we go deeper into the real food cultures the world isn't talking about. Why Vietnamese pho hits different. Pho is not just Vietnam's most famous dish, it's the most misunderstood soup. Every culture has a beef noodle soup. Japan has ramen. China has lanzo. Korea has seolong-tang. But pho sits in a category by itself. And the reason comes down to one thing nobody talks about. Technique over ingredients. The vegetables are simple. The beef is basic. But the method, the char, the toast, the skim, the simmer, that's where pho becomes something else entirely. This is a soup that was never supposed to be fast. And that's exactly what makes it extraordinary. Pho was born in northern Vietnam in the early 1900s, likely shaped by French colonial influence and Chinese cooking traditions colliding in Hanoi street markets. What came out of that collision was something neither culture invented. It was purely Vietnamese. Stay with us, because understanding why pho hits different is what makes every step that follows make complete sense. The bones. What to buy and why it matters. Most homemade pho fails before the water even boils. It fails at the butcher counter. The bones are everything. Not because they add flavor the way a spice does, but because they build the invisible architecture of the broth. The body, the silkiness, that subtle weight that makes a great bowl feel like a complete meal in a single sip. You need two types. Knuckle bones for collagen, the slow-release gelatin that gives pho broth its signature body without making it heavy. Marrow bones for depth, the rich, fatty core that adds roundness and keeps the broth from tasting thin. Get both. Don't substitute. Don't guess. Ask your butcher to cut the knuckle bones into smaller sections. More surface area means more extraction. Beef leg bones work. Oxtail works as a supplement. Avoid pre-cut soup bones from the grocery shelf. They've already given most of what they had. This is where the bowl is won or lost. Blanching the bones. This is the step every shortcut recipe skips. It's also the reason their broth looks like dishwater. Blanching is not optional. It is not extra. It is the single most important thing you do before the real cook begins, and it takes less than 10 minutes. Here's what's happening. Raw bones carry blood, marrow residue, and impurities sitting just beneath the surface. The moment those hit a long simmer without blanching first, they break down into the broth and turn it grey, cloudy, and flat. No amount of skimming fixes it after the fact. You cannot uncloud a broth. You can only prevent it. The method is simple. Cold water, bones in, bring to a hard boil for 10 minutes. Drain everything. Rinse each bone individually under cold running water. Then start the real broth. It adds 10 minutes to a 6-hour cook. That trade is not even a conversation. Stay with us. The next step is where the flavor actually begins. Charring the ginger and onion. This is the moment most Western recipes look at and think it's a mistake. It is not a mistake. You are deliberately burning the ginger. You are deliberately blackening the onion. And it is the single step that separates a pho broth that tastes like beef soup from one that tastes like Vietnam. Here's the science behind the tradition. Direct flame or broiler heat caramelizes the natural sugars in the ginger and onion, while simultaneously creating a layer of char on the outside. That char adds smokiness. The caramelized interior adds sweetness. Together, they create a depth that no amount of extra simmering time can replicate. This one step is responsible for that flavor you could never quite identify in a great bowl of pho. Now you know what it was. Hold the ginger and onion directly over an open gas flame, turning until blackened on all sides. No gas stove. Use the broiler on high, as close to the element as possible. Don't rush it. Don't second guess it. Toasting the spice bundle. Vietnam didn't accidentally put cinnamon and star anise in a beef soup. That decision was genius, and it almost never gets explained properly. Pho's spice profile is unlike anything else in Asian cooking. It sits at the exact intersection of warm, sweet, floral, and savory, without tipping too far in any direction. That balance doesn't happen by accident. It happens in a dry pan. Star anise, cinnamon stick, cloves, cardamom pods, coriander seeds, and fennel seeds, each one toasted separately until fragrant, then bundled together in cheesecloth before hitting the broth. Toasting opens the essential oils locked inside each spice. Those oils are where the real flavor lives. Skip the toast, and you get a flat, one-dimensional broth. Toast them correctly, and the entire kitchen smells like Hanoi at sunrise. Medium heat, dry pan, no oil. Move them constantly. The moment you smell them, pull them off. 30 seconds past fragrant is burnt. Burnt spices don't recover in 6 hours of simmering. They just get more bitter. Building the broth. Low, slow, and clear. The biggest lie in home cooking is that a hard boil cooks things faster. In pho, a hard boil destroys everything you just built. This is where patience becomes the ingredient. Every step until now, the blanch, the char, the toast, was preparation. This is the cook, and the single rule that governs the next 4 to 6 hours is simple. The surface of the broth should barely move. Not a simmer, barely a simmer. High heat agitates the proteins and fat still releasing from the bones. That agitation emulsifies them into the broth and turns it cloudy. A low, steady, almost motionless heat lets everything rise naturally to the surface, where you skim it off, and the broth underneath stays crystal clear. Skim every 30 minutes for the first 2 hours. After that, the broth stabilizes and you can pull back. Add the charred ginger, onion, and spice bundle now. Let them work slowly. This is not a recipe that rewards rushing, it rewards presence. The broth tells you when it's ready, you just have to listen. Seasoning the broth. After 6 hours of building the most complex beef broth you've ever made, this is where most home cooks walk straight into the wall. Seasoning pho is not like seasoning anything else. The 3 ingredients are fish sauce, rock sugar, and salt. Fish sauce brings the umami, that deep, fermented, savory backbone that makes the broth taste like it has been cooking for days. Rock sugar cuts the intensity and rounds every sharp edge without making the broth taste sweet. Salt ties it together and closes the gap between good and unforgettable. Add them gradually, never all at once. Taste after every addition. Start with fish sauce. 2 tablespoons to begin. Let it dissolve into the broth and taste. Add rock sugar in small pieces. Finish with salt only if the broth still feels like it needs an edge. The target is a broth that tastes complete. Not salty, not sweet, not fishy. Just deep, clear, and fully alive. There is no exact measurement that gets you there. Every batch of bones seasons differently. This is the part of pho that can't be fully written down. It has to be learned in the pot. The noodles, fresh versus dried. The broth gets all the attention, but a perfect broth in the wrong noodle ruins the entire bowl. This is the detail nobody warns you about. Bang pho, the flat rice noodle used in pho, comes in 2 forms and 3 widths. Fresh noodles are silkier, softer, and require almost no preparation. Dried noodles need a soak and a blanch, but they travel better and are far easier to find outside Vietnam. Both work, neither is wrong. but the width matters more than people realize. Narrow noodles get lost in a bold broth. Too wide and they overpower it. Medium width is the standard, and the reason most great pho bowls feel balanced. Never boil the noodles directly in the broth. Always blanch separately in plain boiling water, drain, then add to the bowl before the broth goes in. One extra pot. One step that protects 6 hours of work. Slicing the beef. The noodles are ready. The broth is seasoned. Now comes the part that defines the entire eating experience. Most people think pho is a one beef dish. It isn't. A properly built pho bowl uses 2 cuts doing 2 completely different jobs. Brisket was added to the broth in the final hour of the cook, low and slow until tender and pull apart, then removed, rested, and sliced thick for serving. Eye of round is a completely different, sliced paper thin and placed raw directly in the bowl. It cooks the moment boiling broth hits it, turning silky and delicate in under 30 seconds. 1 cut for depth, 1 cut for texture. Together, they make the bowl complete. The eye of round must be thin enough to see light through. If your knife skills aren't there yet, ask your butcher to slice it on a meat slicer. Partially freeze the eye of round for 20 minutes before slicing. It firms up the muscle fibers and makes paper-thin cuts possible at home. This is not a detail. This is the bowl. Assembling the bowl. Every ingredient is ready. The broth is perfect. This is the moment most home cooks accidentally undo everything with one simple mistake. Order matters. Temperature matters. Speed matters. Start with the noodles, already blanched and drained, laid directly into the bottom of the bowl. Next comes the brisket, sliced and fanned across the top. Then the raw eye of round, laid flat and separated so every slice gets direct broth contact. Now the broth, and this is non-negotiable. The broth must be at a rolling boil at the exact moment it hits the bowl. Not warm, not hot, boiling. Anything less, and the raw eye of round doesn't cook properly. The texture turns wrong. The experience falls apart. 6 hours of work undermined in one lukewarm ladle. Pour high and pour fast. Let the heat do the work. The raw beef will shift from deep red to pale pink in seconds. That's your signal the bowl is alive and ready. Don't wait. Eat immediately. Building the toppings table. In Vietnam, the toppings are not garnish. They are the second half of the recipe. This is where the bowl becomes personal. A proper pho toppings plate arrives at the table alongside the bowl. Never preloaded, never mixed in by the kitchen. The diner builds the experience themselves, adjusting flavor, heat, and freshness with every addition. That autonomy is part of the culture. Bean sprouts add crunch and a clean, raw freshness that cuts through the richness of the broth. Thai basil brings a floral, slightly anise note that mirrors the star anise already in the soup. Fresh chilies add heat that builds slowly. Lime wedges brighten everything and lift the entire bowl when squeezed directly into the broth. Hoisin and sriracha go on the side, never directly into the broth. Dip the beef, dip the noodles, but protect the broth. 6 hours of careful seasoning deserves better than a squeeze bottle undoing it in 3 seconds. That is the unspoken rule every Hanoi local knows and nobody puts in the recipe. Hanoi versus Saigon. Which style is this? Vietnam is not one pho. It never was. And the difference between North and South will start an argument at any table. Hanoi pho is restrained, clean, disciplined. The broth is lighter in color, less sweet, and more focused on the pure depth of bone and spice. The toppings are minimal, sometimes just green onion and a few slices of beef. Nothing competes with the broth because the broth is the point. Ho Chi Minh City pho is louder, bolder, more generous. Sweeter broth, a fuller toppings plate, and a table crowded with bean sprouts, fresh herbs, and condiments. The southern version welcomes customization. The northern version quietly discourages it. This recipe follows the Hanoi school. Broth first, everything else second. Not because the southern style is wrong, but because if you can nail the restrained version, the rest becomes easy. Common mistakes and how to fix them. You followed the recipe, you put in the hours. The broth still isn't right. Here's exactly why and exactly how to fix every single one. These are the 6 mistakes that silently kill homemade pho. Most home cooks make at least 3 without ever knowing which one broke the bowl. Cloudy broth. You boiled it too hard. Aggressive heat agitates the proteins and emulsifies fat directly into the liquid. The fix going forward: keep the heat lower than feels right. This batch can be partially rescued by straining through fine mesh lined with cheesecloth. Flat, one-dimensional flavor. You skip the char or the spice toast. There is no fix after the fact. Both steps must happen before the broth begins, or the depth is simply not there. Mushy noodles. You cook them inside the broth or blanch them too far in advance. Always blanch separately. Always blanch to order, right before each bowl is built. Tough brisket. It didn't cook long enough at low enough heat. Brisket needs a full hour at a bare simmer to break down properly. Rushed brisket has the texture of a rubber band. Under-seasoned broth. You measured instead of tasted. Fish sauce, rock sugar, and salt are starting points, not fixed destinations. Every batch of bones seasons differently. Skipping the skim. The first 2 hours of skimming are what keep the broth clear, clean, and pure. Skip it, and no amount of straining fully recovers it. The difference between a good cook and a great one is knowing which mistake you made before anyone else at the table figures it out. Final bowl and taste test. 6 hours ago, this was a pile of bones, a piece of ginger, and a handful of spices. Look at it now. This is the moment the work becomes a meal. The broth is clear, deep amber, and alive with the kind of complexity that no restaurant shortcut has ever replicated. The brisket is pull-apart tender. The eye of round is silky and barely pink. The noodles are soft without being mushy. The toppings table is set exactly the way it would be in a Hanoi street kitchen at 5 a.m. This is not a recipe you made. This is a technique you learned. Take the first sip of broth before anything else. Not a spoonful, a sip, straight from the bowl, the way Vietnamese locals do it. That first hit of charred ginger, toasted star anise, fish sauce, and 6 hours of bone tells you everything you need to know about whether you got it right. You'll know immediately. Every great bowl of pho starts with a decision. To do it right or not at all. You chose right. What you just made is not a recipe from a food blog. It's a century-old technique from the street kitchens of Hanoi, made in your own home from scratch. That's not nothing. That's everything. If this video helped you, subscribe to Traveling and Eating. Every week we go deeper into the authentic food cultures, recipes, and street food traditions the rest of the world is still sleeping on.